I'm constantly in the fight with people about certain wording or who is or isn't pro right to keep and bear arms. Now, I pick on these certain people all the time because they're so easily to pick on, and plus they're some of the biggest platforms out there. This person I'm about to pick on right now is the prime example of this, the shining example of the difference between being pro right to keep and bear arms and pro his right to keep and bear arms. Colion Noir is pro his right to keep and bear arms. He's not pro right to keep and bear arms. I'm about to prove it to you right now.
Personally, I don't have a problem with background checks. However, I do have a problem with universal background checks.
How can you be pro right to keep and bear arms exactly if you don't have a problem with background checks? Because background checks keep people from purchasing firearms. I want to give a shout out to our channel sponsor, Auto Key Cards. Please go check them out at autokeycards.com.
I have a problem with them because the only way to enforce them is to implement a universal gun registration.
So what Colion's saying here is that he doesn't like what affects him. If it affects you, he's fine with it. But he just doesn't like if it's going to affect him, which he's about to admit right here.
I don't like gun registrations because they always lead to gun confiscation.
Which would affect who? Colion.
The politicians who push for universal background checks know this, so they avoid talking about details of universal background checks, because if they do, they'll have to inevitably admit that a universal background check is useless.
Kind of like how Colion avoids having a conversation with somebody like me, because what I do is then I prove that he is not pro right to keep and bear arms. He is pro his right to keep and bear arms. He could care less if you can have a firearm or that anybody else can, as long as he has it. He does not want laws implemented that affects him. That is why he supports background checks today. Dude, they do not affect him, but they affect somebody. Which, if they affect somebody, then the question has to really be asked, is a right? No, it is not. It is then a privilege, which that is what our government has done. It has taken our right, has created these laws, now making it a privilege so I can stand back here and say, oh, well, that person shouldn't have a gun. They're dangerous. All the while holding the door open for the person behind me to point the finger at me and say, I think that person's dangerous. They shouldn't have a firearm. Carry on, Colion.
And even more useless, without a national gun registry. This is Neer Tanden. Joe Biden has nominated Neer Tanden to become the Director of Office of Management and Budget. When I was on the Bill Maher show, Neer and I went back and forth about universal background checks.
So when I see those number of guns up there, my mind doesn't automatically go to, oh my God, that's horrible and that's bad.
I totally hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying to you is, what you're trying to do is say that progressives, liberals, whatever, want to ban guns. No one's saying ban your gun. We're saying regulate them so people with mental illness have background checks, a variety of things about certain types of guns. No one is saying you can't have a gun.
This is a very typical response of anti-2A politicians. They speak very broadly on the issue, so you can't nail them down to specifics. And then they'll bring up a point that you didn't even make and then argue against that point. She does this by saying, you think all the liberals want to take your guns. No one is saying take your guns. Just regulate them. Do I think anti-2A politicians would like to take all the guns if they could? Yes. But that's not the argument I'm making here, as you can clearly see.
But also the last point I wanted to make with respect to you seeing the number of guns up there and you feeling some type of way is I look at guns differently than you do.
Yes.
And there was a point in time where I looked at it, probably the same way you did, right? I had about as an organic progression of firearm ownership as one can have. I was against guns. I didn't like them. But I went to the range one time and I shot a gun, and that changed for me. And so now I can see a myriad of reasons for why someone would own a firearm, whether it be recreation, sports, collecting, so forth and so on. So when I see those number of guns up there, my mind doesn't automatically go to, oh my God, that's horrible and that's bad.
I totally hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying to you is, what you're trying to do is say that progressives, liberals, whatever, want to ban guns. No one's saying ban your gun. We're saying regulate them so people with mental illness have background checks, a variety of things about certain types of guns. No one is saying you can't have a gun.
This is where I would have jumped in and said, hey, crazy bitch, you have a mental illness, talking that way, thinking that you have the authority to dictate what other people can, can't, should, or should not own. Yes, I think that you are mentally ill. Therefore, you should have to have a background check to be able to speak freely. Speech is far more dangerous than any firearm. It can be proven very simply. Why do you think millions of people were killed over across the pond in the 30s and 40s? It started with speech. Speech was the catalyst to it. So speech is far more dangerous than any firearm. You just want control is what you want. You're too blind to and too slow, too mentally ill to be able to separate the problems. Carry on. And I forgot, my bad. And she's not saying you can't have a gun, Colion. She's saying that all those people that she believes is crazy shouldn't have a gun. I don't think she should be able to speak freely. Let's create a law for that.
I didn't say anything about her or liberals wanting to ban guns. The irony is, that's exactly what an assault weapon ban is. It's a ban on an extremely popular gun. The word ban is in the name. However, I want you to pay attention to what happens when I try to get her to explain how they would actually enforce a universal background check.
And I know the NRA always wants to say, people are saying ban guns, but they're not. They're simply saying, for my safety and the protection of children and other people, we should have regulations like background checks on every single gun.
Yeah, because that's worked so well, hasn't it? If you look back historically, the times when these people were the safest is when everybody had a firearm. Put the firearm in everybody's hand that wants to own a firearm, because it is their right. They have the right to go purchase, buy, build, create, whatever you want to call it, a firearm for themselves. Get rid of every infringement that there is. Every gun law is an infringement across the board. I don't care if mass murderer Bob down the street has a firearm. You know why? Because I protect me. It is my job to protect me. You don't hear her screaming about cars. Let's ban cars. Go look, see how many people die annually from cars. Or let's ban doctors. 250,000 deaths annually are contributed to medical malpractice. 250,000. Let's ban doctors. That would make more sense. That would make the kids safer, wouldn't it? No. Put a firearm in the hands of anybody that wants to own a firearm from the ages of, 16 and up. They want to have it? Let them have it. Who cares? That's how you will be the safest. Banning firearms does not work. Registrations do not work. Background checks do not work. Every felon that woke up this morning wanting a firearm now has one in their hands right now. The genie is out of the bottle. Why? Because it is a natural right. The man who killed my son had the right to keep and bear arms before, during, after killing my son. He didn't have the right to kill my son. It's two separate issues. If there hadn't been a law in place making my son a soft target because he wasn't able to have a firearm because of that law, my son would still be alive, and the killer would be the one that would be dead.
Now, how would you enforce that?
Okay.
As we've done in the past.
If we're going to suggest a solution, at least have something that's enforceable, right?
It is enforceable.
So how
We
would you
have
enforce
background
it? How
checks.
would you
Do them
enforce a
for
private
gun
background
shows. Do them for regular.
No,
We have had discussions of bills. The NRA fights them. The Toomey Mansion bill. Support that bill. Would you support that bill?
After you answer my question.
How
would you enforce?
When did I lose control of this whole show?
As you can see, she can't explain it because she knows they would have to have a national database of every gun and the owners of said guns. And the only way to have that is to have a national registration of all the guns. Now, if you don't think a national gun registration is a bad thing, then that's on you. But I can assure you that the goal of a national gun registry is to use it to confiscate guns.
So as you see, Colion here is okay as long as it doesn't affect him. As long as he thinks that it's not going to affect him. He's okay with background checks. Why do you think they're having the conversation today about this stuff? Because the background checks were okay. Because Colion's okay with the background checks. That's what makes this conversation even possible. If the background check system would have never been possible, no, we're not doing that, period. We're not having a background check. We wouldn't be having these conversations today. It's the death by 1,000 cuts tactic. You cut a little here, you take a little there, and we'll get that down the road. It's always about what's next, Colion. And you support what's next by supporting what was first.
Well, the story really begins in the 20s, the Weimar Republic. There was a lot of political violence, and they thought, well, we can do something about it. They had the same gun debates as today, but then they thought, well, if we can only license gun owners and register them, that will help calm things down. And of course, the communists and the Nazis who were fighting each other, they didn't register I don't need no license for nothing. You know what I mean? That was their attitude. So law-abiding people registered. And when they passed the registration, that was at the end of 1931, the equivalent to the Attorney General said, do not let the records fall into the wrong hands, the hands of radical elements. And within 2 years, the radical elements took power. Hitler, the National Socialist Party took power in 1933. They immediately used the gun registration records to disarm and attack their political enemies. That would be the Social Democrats and the others, the same ones who had passed these registration laws to begin with. They disarmed and attacked some Jews, but predominantly in 1933, it was against the political enemies. We go through a period of 5 years, and in September, October 1938, they began to confiscate the guns from Jews. They knew who had them. The guns were registered. I found in my research archives that have arrest reports of, yes, this person's a Jew. He's a danger to the German people. He has to be disarmed. He registered his guns in 1931 or 32.
Wow.
And they disarmed them, and then we have, in November, the attacks on the whole Jewish community after they were disarmed, Reichskristallnacht, or the Night of the Broken Glass.
The reason why I keep harping on universal background checks is because that is going to be the Biden administration's main focus, along with an assault weapon ban.
You keep harping on universal background checks because the confiscation that will come from that affects you. You didn't care until it affected you, Colion. You are not pro right to keep and bear arms. That's why you refer to the right to keep and bear arms as being pro second A. No, if you're a pro second A, which is the restriction on government, you wouldn't be pro any infringement at all, not even background checks. The background check system keeps someone from having a firearm. I don't care how dangerous they are. They have the right to own a firearm. They should have a firearm. Having a firearm, then hurting somebody with a firearm is two totally separate issues. One has nothing to do with the other. If someone wants to hurt you, they're going to do it with a rock, a club, a car, a stick. It doesn't matter. They're going to do it if that is their goal. You cannot legislate evil away, but what you can do is by slowly boiling the frog, you can make a right of privilege, which is what they have done. Now, I would implore all of you, to not comply with any of it. Now, Colion says he won't comply, but he complies today. He goes and fills out 44 to 73s. Don't do that. Go buy your firearms in private sales. All of them. Don't fill out a 4473 because they will use those to come and get you. When you do a private sale, you are legally, you have to do certain things. Legally. Whether you do them or not, that's up to you. I would suggest that when you buy or sell something, you are very careful about how you do or do not ask questions. For example, when you sell a firearm privately, you are required by some laws in some states to ask somebody if they are a felon. They do not have to prove if they are or not to you. Accept their answer for what it is. It's time for everybody to stop complying with this shit. All of it. Colion here is not pro right to keep and bear arms. Colion hears about lining his pockets. That's why he puts that muzzle on his face and makes sure they try to sell you some after every single video. He's not pro-rights. He is pro-lining Colion's pockets. That's what he is. He doesn't even know what a right is. That's why he won't have a conversation with me. I've actually been engaged with conversations with Colion through the comments threads, and magically he disappears after a comment or two. So if you're a Colion fan or Colion or Constance or whatever the hell his name is, sorry about you. He's a bitch. If we're going to play this game about danger, and you believe there's somebody that's too dangerous to own a firearm, know that you're holding the door open for somebody to point the finger at you and say that you are too dangerous. That's what we are seeing now. If these felons are so dangerous they shouldn't have a firearm, then they probably shouldn't have been let out of jail, which is a separate issue. That is a sentencing issue, not a right to keep and bear arms issue. People need to learn to think for themselves, learn to separate the issues, and arm yourself, people. Everybody. They are coming.